Okay, before I put this switch box in, you'll see this red and black wire running to this. It's kind of the common. It runs over here to the fuel gauge, and when you push this, the fuel gauge will indicate oil, but you want to do that when the engine's cold and not running. But anyway, the switch here, it's a push button in front, but if you don't put that wire in before you put the switch box in, you'll never get that wire in. Okay, what we got here is we got a switch box, and the first thing I'm going to do is show you there's a sleeve on these. I hope you can see that okay, and then there's threads, so there's a nut, and you got to take it off and thread it past the first one. And you got to get it threaded on the second one and take it off. Now there's 3 of these on here, so I've already loosened the nuts, so I'll show you on one of these. But the switch box you can take out of the dash without disconnecting all the wires on it this way. I'll show you what I mean in a second. You pull the Bakelite plate out and get it out of there. Well, I'm not going to record all those screws. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is there's a little ridge on this, and this is really Bakelite, and there's a little ridge on it, and if you just tap it a little bit, and I don't recommend whacking it real good, but you can get your little screwdriver, and there she goes. And then once it comes off of there, you can pull the whole thing out like so. Well, you can get it out of there if that wire comes through there. And see, that wire will come through there, so you get the whole thing off of there like that. And the reason I had to take this apart is I mistakenly took a screw off, and this fell out of there, and it's got a little ball in it that rides underneath that and clicks, and so I got to put the ball and the screw back in. But I'm going to check my contacts here and make sure that they're not all worn and bad. I can replace those if I need to. Yeah. Okay, if you got a bad switch contact that goes out, for example, these right here, you just take the screw out and that contact will come out of there. There's contacts here, all the way around. I'm not going to take any of them out. These are all good. Somebody must have replaced these or not. This one hadn't been used a lot, so I always like to inspect them, but once again, there's some contacts on these side, but you got to take the screw out from this side to get these out, and take this off, and then take that contact out. But you can get those. Those are readily available from people like Albert's and Flying Spare and those kind of places. So anyway, that's how you take that off of there and put that back on. So if you were curious, but you can see now how I could take this whole thing, and I could take that out of the car and be good, but leave this hooked up to the wires. Okay, I'm got the switch box here, which we talked about earlier, and I stuck it in there. Okay. And as I stick it in there, I've got 2 of these fillet head screws and washers. I'm going to put 1 in each hole. So as I get it down there, I can... Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and start wiring in the car on that. As you can see, I put the dash in here, and I'm starting to wire up there. Got a few wires ran to the switch box. I'm starting at the back of it here and working my way forward, and I got a few other wires connected there, so tick tock, tick tock. Wiring here is progressing. I put these 2 switches in, the lower air and the upper air. I also, you can see wired up here. I did not tighten those yet. I was kind of leaving everything loosey-goosey on the nuts and the ground over here. But I'm starting to work on the other side. Okay, I'm continuing with the wiring here. I got everything in there pretty good. Of course, I started here, then I went to here, then I did these two. Okay, and now I'm working on this side, and I'm going to do those two. I already ran these wires to this because they're kind of out of the way, and that's the speedometer. And you'll look back in there and you'll see these two right there, if you can see my finger pointing at them. The two cans there they're not tightened down, but maybe if I go... Yeah, right there. There they are, the two cans right here. Now, they're not mounted on there. They're still loose, but I got the screw started. So I like to leave everything loose until I get the things done. But slowly but surely, if I get that in, I can start getting the windshield in and the wood in. Okay, continuing the wire, you'll see I got this switch in now, and now I'm going to put the other switch in. And that's for the windshield wipers, and I got it all wired up. I had to trace some wires. You know, there's two green and white wires here, and one of them goes to this switch, which is the fuel oil level check, or the oil level check, and it's green and white, and the other one goes here, which is green and white. So I had to trace those down outside and make sure I got them on the right place. I'm putting this canister on here, and you can see I've got these little screw things on here. It slipped over the wiring after I got all the wires in the switch. And they have a kind of a, I don't know, turned down nutty deal with a serrated edge. And then it's got this double lock washer thing. So anyway, there's three of them that go on that switch box. I continue to wire here. I got this one in. I went ahead and wired this up next, and I put this in and wired this up and got all my green leads in. So this goes to the cap rail, so I got all the wires accounted for. Now over on this side, I pulled all of them that go to the dash and up into the steering wheel, so I got them all ready to go. So I'm going to mount this up to the dash, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 holes that mounts to, and you can see the holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and mount that up there. Okay, I mounted that up there. You'll note on the speedometer over here that I did not connect the speedometer cable, which is hanging down here. But since I don't have anything on the dash, none of the wood in, the radio, none of that, I can reach up from behind. But normally I've made another thing on the video that shows you how to take it out when all the wood's in there. You got to take the 4 screws out, lean it out a little bit, and then unscrew that. But I'm going to do it the other way around just because I got everything out. And that other little connector, which I got laying there on the floor, that one right there, that's going to go in the back of that too, which resets the mileage. If you want to track your mileage from 0 to whatever, you reset that. When I talked about these 4 screws here, there, and there that hold it in, I forgot a Cloud 3 with the mirror on the dash also has a screw right there and a screw right there. You can see them up underneath there. That holds the bracket for the rear view mirror. And I will have to take that loose again to get that in there with some of the wood, but I wanted to make sure it formed with all the wires, and I'm going to clean them up and back and dress them up a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed that. Before I get on to the next thing, I thought I'd wire these in. Those are the warning lamps for the generator and the fuel. And I've got that one put in, you'll see. Okay, it pops in there. And there's an opening in it right here. And that has to be lined up with the light. So when you pop it in there, like that. You have to get it, the slot in it here goes forward, so that gets pressed on down in there. I have to get my other hand to hold that, but that's how those go in there. I tried to put the lower wood piece in, and I took the dash loose and I tied it up here at the top. I think you can see my wire there. And that gets it out of the way, because you're going to put these 3 screws here in. And those 3 screws, you got to be able to get that board straight in or it won't go in. So anyway, there you go. When you put this dash in, you got these wires and stuff to contend with, and they got to be straight up and down. There can't be any hanging out, but they go in those holes there. Well, one of them goes to the side and one of them goes in here. But anyway, if you don't have them right, they won't line up right. So you got to get it going in straight. Coming over to the car, you'll see up here, you'll see that bracket I've got put in right here. I've got the screws started up at the top. I hope you can see those. And then I'm going to put some BA, and I think they're 2 or 3 BA screws, or they're going to be bolts with washers. Before I put the wood dash in, I'm going to put this in, and that is a vent, and it has a joint right there. So anyway, and I've got this strip of black soundproofing, and I'm going to put that around that joint back there. So I'm going to peel that off. It sticks on, but it makes a great tape, and it is better than duct tape because it doesn't come off, and you can squooge it back on there if you want to. There is one of these on the far side too, so I'm going to go over there and stick that one in. Oh, there's a left and a right. They are different, of course. I'm going to try this again. And I'm going to go around to the other side of the car here. If you can hear me, you can probably see me. But anyway, you put this dash up in there. And these wires have to go through those holes, and these 3 holes here are going to get these screws in the back. There's 3 here. I put these brackets in, and I showed you those brackets, and there's one on that side, and there's 3 holes over there. So anyway, to get this in, you've got to take and slip the top in like this, but you got to kind of get the right hole in there. Got all these wires in the wrong place there. Okay, the pink goes through there and the blue goes through there. And then the top has to come in first, like so. And you get those in there, and then you take a screw, which these are a round-headed screw. They're kind of funny. Most screws are V-head or a flat head. And I'm going to actually reach behind this side, open the glove box, and get one of these screws started. Okay, I got that one started. Then I'm going to get behind there and get all the other ones started. But that's how you do it. Okay. I tightened all the screws, the 3 on the wood screws on there, right through there, and then right through over there. Now you can see the bracket through in that hole there, okay? And I tightened those were 3 BAs, and I tightened those down last. I did not know where they were going to be centered at, so the middle ones I knew would be right, but the outside ones I left those brackets loose on the BA bolts, and put the screws into the wood, and then I put the BA bolts in. And the bottom of it goes level with that black rail, so the bottom of the black rail. And now I'm going to continue right underneath the steering wheel. There is a bunch of wiring that goes to all those switches, the defroster switch, the test plug, the brake light, and I'm missing one other one I can't see. Oh, the push button to open the gas cap. Next, I'm putting these little, I don't know how to call them, bezels or whatever, the little cover plates that go on the screen, and they go right over here for the screen. And then I put this one on, and you can see they've got the little washer, and they've got the big cheese head type of flathead screw on them, and there's 3 of them there. You can see one there, there, and there, and then on the other side there's one there, there, and there. So I'm going to go ahead and get those in. Okay, I put the cap rail light, the map light in. Should say cap rail. The cap rail's up there. But this is the light, and it's got a little prong on it, and you push that prong over, and you can see that prong on there. You push that prong and put the wire through there, and this just gets a one of those push-through grounding terminals on it. And I'm going to go down here, but there's a large kind of decorative washer on it, and then there's a big like brass screw. So anyway, there's how you oh, and that big brass screw goes in there, and if you can see under there, so that's where they go. Okay, that shows that up mounted in there. I will have to take that out of there because I've got to get behind this to get the bolts in for the top rail, but I was just putting it in there as a placeholder, so I had all the pieces and had it, all the wires taken care of. What I've got here is a little tab, and those are electrical connectors. I hope you can see that real well. And they're real dirty, and that's what makes electrical connection in these old cars. But I'm going to get that on a piece of sandpaper, emery cloth, whatever you want to call it. And it's hard on your fingers, but you can clean those things off so they look nice and clean like that. Yeah, I'm higher in the engine bay. I'm actually working on the steering. Those wires there go to the air conditioning compressor, or go to the air conditioning. Anyway, what I'm putting on is you got these switches, and one of them is a cutoff unless you're in neutral. You can't start the car. And then the other one is a, what is the other one? Oh, it's an indicator light, but anyway. That goes down and gets mounted in up down in there, but I'm going to leave it out there for the time being. So anyway, you can get a close-up of it there. Those are your switches that go on the top of the mount for the steering wheel, and they go right down in there. So anyway, let's see, we're working on that side of the car. Okay, what we got here is we've got the radio I'm wiring up, and the radio input goes to the top and bottom. Then you got a speaker on this side and a speaker on this side, and then you got a rheostat connected. But anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is put this up there, and you'll see it has a slot in it right next to here. So that slot goes through, well, it goes through here, and there's a slot, and it's right about there. So you got to get that up there, and then there is a big thin nut and a washer, dealy lock washer that goes on it. So I'm going to put that in next. Okay, and there you can see it's mounted in through the hole. And we'll put the speaker in next, I think. Okay, I put the, can you see the radio there, or the speaker? I put the speaker in. Okay, and it's held by 2 BA screws here, and I think they're a 1BA, but they're about that long. But that just fits up in there like that, and I connected the 2 wires over here. And I'm going to swing around here with the camera, so I hope you don't get all dizzy. But I got the radio all hooked up there, and it simply slides back, then pulls forward into here. So it slides back, you can see the radio, and then slides into those holes right here. So, okay, I decided I could get to everything, so I went ahead and slipped that radio up in there. You can see it's still loose. But I slipped it up in there, and I'm going to try to zoom underneath. It's got 2 railings here that run back, and they get a BA bolt back in the back. And I don't know if you can see up there, I'm holding the camera, but the BA bolt is right in there, and there's one that goes right over here. So anyway, I'm going to get those in. And then up here on the front, you get the grill goes on like that. And then you get a lock washer and big nut, big thin nut, copper. Okay, I got everything in there in the front and underneath, and I'm working on putting the cover back on it, the wood cover, and it gets these funny brass screws that are a wood screw, and they kind of got a rounded V-head, and then underneath they get this silver screw. So the silver screw goes in down here across the bottom, and the colored ones go in these holes here. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that up there. Okay, you'll see I put the knobs on here, and these have like half moons on the back like any radio knob does. So they just pop on there, and there's your balance knob. And so I don't know, I put new transistors in that radio and some capacitors, and I'm an electrical engineer by education, and didn't do a lot of it, but did more management side, but I was more of a fixer. But anyway, that's the radio, and that's the original radio, and I got a new faceplate there for it. I forget who sent that to me. A buddy in the Rolls-Royce Club had some of those made, and he had to have like 100 of them made. So it was plastic, and I had to cut it down to fit in there. But it's a brand new stenciling. I think it looks good. Right here, I started putting the knobs on. You'll see that one I don't have, and you see a little knobby on the side. And that little knobby there pushes in. You can see it. It goes in and out. Well, that little knobby goes in the hole on the bottom of the handle of the switch. And you got to oil them, and you got to have them quite free. If they're sticky, they won't snap in right. But you find where the hole is, and you get that side going, and you put it on there, and then it snaps in place. You can get underneath it if you need to with a little screwdriver like that and kind of help it down, but that's how you do those knobs on the front. The picky neck table, and it gets held in on the back with a 2BA screw or bolt. That is a bolt, and then it gets this thin head screw. Okay, so it gets a bolt, and then it gets washers on there. So the front is screws, the back is bolts. To prove I did it, I went ahead and screwed that in. Let me see if I can get a shot up underneath there. You can see the screws and the bolts. And so there you go.